Okay, Elana Freeland's been on the show before, and she told us all about the space fence and what its purpose is. She's a ghostwriter, lecturer, storyteller, and teacher who researches and writes on the deep state, what the deep state's doing, including the stories of survivors of MK Ultra, ritual abuse, invasive electromagnetic weapons. And she's well known for her chemtrail books, things on HAARP, full spectrum dominance of planet Earth. And of course, that includes the space fence, which of course, the space fence, she wrote a book called Under an Ionized Sky, From Chemtrails to Space Fence Lockdown, which is about the resurrection of the Strategic Defense Initiative, Star Wars Space Fence. And she's writing a third book of the trilogy called Synthetic Biology and Transhumanism. Elana Freeland, welcome to Ground Zero. How are you tonight?
Hey, Clyde. Thanks for having me.
And, thank you for coming on the show because, the minute I saw that they were going to fire up Space Fence, but this is a rebooted version of Space Fence, I actually wrote on Facebook, no one would have known about Space Fence if it weren't for Elana Freeland. And you've been talking about Space Fence for as long as I can remember.
Well, yeah, I published that book in 2018. I spent, 4 years on it? Well, actually 2. And when I saw that article before you contacted me, I just had to have a little laugh. I read through the article. It was tremendous nothingness. Clyde, this is such a done deal. And all I can think of, the first thing that came to my mind was, oh yeah, okay, so they've got the Space Force going now. I don't know if you remember, but it was in 2017, after President Trump took office, that suddenly, and he hadn't been around for, almost 2 years, the geoengineer David Keith, who is, I believe, resides in Bill Gates' back pocket, suddenly is out in front again and talking about geoengineering and the necessity to geoengineer. And now we're going to do the SRI program, or the whatever the latest acronym is, to fight global warming, to fight climate change, to make the world a better place, blah, blah, blah. And that was exactly 3 years ago that occurred. And that was the beginning of the normalizing of geoengineering. That's what it was. We've had geoengineering for 20 years plus. And finally, when Trump took office, and again, I remind you that Trump's uncle was John Trump, right? The physicist. And he's the one who took control over the Tesla documents and apparati at Tesla's death in 1943. So to me, these things all kind of run together. The geoengineering normalizing. Now, 3 years later, we have the normalizing, again, of the space fence this time. And the space fence, I certainly owe Billy Hayes, the HAARP man, a nod of the head, more than a nod of the head, for having pointed me in the direction after the Chemtrails HAARP book of the formation, the resurrection of the space fence that was under, as you said earlier, the SDI, Strategic Defense Initiative, Star Wars program under Reagan. And it certainly, in the Under an Ionized Sky, I talk about how this space fence going up on the Kwajalein Atoll, first of all, that is not just that is the space fence. No, that's the last piece to it.
There are a lot of like mobile ones as well. There's Mirage and others. We're going to talk about that coming up with Elana Freeland tonight on Ground Zero. They're firing up the space fence. Gallium nitride they're going to use to power it up. A lot of power going into this, like HAARP. One more reason to screw with our ionosphere. One more reason to, and they're saying it's to protect us. But from what? Incoming space objects? Perhaps alien invasion? Who knows? It's certainly going to be part of a major grid system, much like Skynet. 877-733-1011. That's 877-733-1011. I'm Clyde Lewis. You're listening to Ground Zero, and we'll be back. You're listening to Ground Zero. Elana Freeland's my guest tonight. Space fence being fired up by the military. Just out of the blue, they're saying they're going to fire it up this month. And it takes a lot of power to fire something up like that. Gallium nitride is going to be used. And they're going to fire it up just like they fire up anything that basically screws with the ionosphere. And, of course, before, space fence was a lot of things you do with space fence. You use it for geoengineering. You use it for the grid system. Right now, they say they're using it to block incoming objects. But what incoming objects are they going to block? That's the question. But in the meantime, Elana Freeland has been doing research on this very subject for the longest time. And we've had her on the program to talk about it. In fact, she was one of the first to break the story. Of course, she's written some books about this, Under an Ionized Sky, From Chemtrails to Space Fence Lockdown, which is about the resurrection of the SDI Star Wars space fence. Now writing the third book of a trilogy, Synthetic Biology and Transhumanism is her next book. But right now we're sticking with space fences. Space fence has been, well, they're going to fire it up again. Now, you know, they're talking that this thing's going to have a lot of power behind it. Tell me about the power. Is this like Mirage or HARP? Is this something similar to that?
Well, I think you said earlier, Clyde, that it's S-band, and S-band is extremely powerful. HARP actually has an S-band radar system to determine, detect, and detract any type of aircraft over the HARP instrument, the phased array antenna acreage up in Gakona, Alaska. So, no, it's I think the wave, if I recall right, is 2 to 4 centimeters, which is really small. And as you know, the smaller the wave, the more power that is required. But I would like to put in that it's not that they're going to fire it up again. They've been running the space fence since the Kwajalein Atoll installation was finished, which was a while back. And I before the break, I wanted to just point out the irony that the sort of tip of the hat that they gave to Ronald Reagan, because that's when the SDI program began, was under his regime, the Troika, I call it, with Reagan, George H.W. Bush, and Dick Cheney, the tip of the hat on the atoll is that it's actually a refurbishing of the Ronald Reagan missile platform. So I found that really interesting that they would at least acknowledge him in that way. So what you have is you have the Kwajalein Atoll. And then they, again, mention that they're going to have something in Western Australia. Well, they already have a massive, massive installation in Western Australia at Alice Springs, and that includes a deep underground base. So the space fence operates not singularly with one installation. It operates with several installations all simultaneously through that type of weaponizing called interferometry, and that's where you get 2 or 3 beams to interlock over the target area, and then you can do whatever you want. You want a weather happening there, fine. You want to create some sort of devastation, fine. And what the important part of this is that in the article, once again, and I had to wade through this over and over when I wrote the book, they make it sound like the space fence is all about looking out into space. It is not just about out into space. It's also a lockdown on planet Earth. And that includes surveillance. That includes neurological manipulation. That includes the weather, the nanoparticles in the atmosphere. All of this is the space fence is very, very involved in. And remember, Lockheed Martin owns all the patents for the space fence and basically runs it. So I did want to correct that picture that it's not just looking outward for UFOs or incoming meteors, so-called, or whatever. It really is also about looking downward. And that's from because there's the ground installations, like the Kwajalein Atoll.
Right.
And there's tons of them. I mean, NextRads, radar installations, laser installations, on and on. That's what the whole book is about, Under an Ionized Sky.
Well, once again,
one thing after another.
Yeah, sure. Once again, they're trying to electrify everything and create these electronic plasmas over the planet that are causing all kinds of problems with the weather, causing all kinds of problems with, the way our brains operate. And so, Space Force, Space Fence. And why are they just all of a sudden saying, okay, we're going to fire it up more, give it more power, give it more money? We'll talk more about that with Elana Freeland tonight. 877-733-1011. That's 877-733-1011. I'm Clyde Lewis. You're listening to Ground Zero, and we'll be back. Tonight, Elana Freeland's with us. Talking about the Space Fence. Space Fence was originally the brainchild of the Reagan era during the craze to build the Strategic Defense Initiative, a space-based weapons defense program ostensibly designed to protect the United States from incoming Russian nuclear missiles. Now, it's been established that this early version of the Space Fence may have actually been created to keep an eye on unusual UFO developments in space. Of course, a lot of other things coming from space, too, like weapons, and, of course, we abandon SDI on paper. But, of course, covert forces inside the national security state, the deep state, have continued to develop various uses for this space-deployed technology, and a couple of them have been pretty much to put the planet on full lockdown. So says Elana Freeland, my guest tonight on Ground Zero. When you say putting the planet on lockdown, give us a kind of a summation of what that would be.
Well, it's not a would-be. It's ongoing right now. We are becoming accustomed to it. And to finish the picture I was building of the correcting the way Lockheed Martin wants us to see the Space Fence. One, that it's one installation out in the Marshall Islands in the middle of the Pacific, far away from civilization. And two, the idea that it's somehow just looking out to space and watching to make sure satellites don't crash into each other, etc. It's much more than that. It's an infrastructure on the ground. Very, very vast. Radar installations, NextRad, big golf ball things, as we were saying, mobile HARPs now, ionospheric heaters traveling everywhere. It includes wind farms because, and it includes the digging for oil. All of these things require a certain chemistry and a certain calibration of resonance, and all of this is set to work in tandem with the above the atmosphere in the near Earth orbit of the satellites up there. There's this has been out since 2014. There's some sort of ring forming around the planet, around the equator, that is ultra low frequency, ULF, particulates. They are heavy metals. They are conductive. So it's as if we're kind of sandwiched between something above the planet and something on the planet. And all of this is exacerbated and forced on us by our breathing in the nanoparticles that are being laid in space for sensors, nanosensors, to collect atmospheric data for the weather engineering that's going on. All of this geoengineering piece of this Space Fence program all has to do with full spectrum dominance of the planet. And in my mind, it fits perfectly with what Catherine Austin Fitts has again and again brought before us, where that $21 trillion went that's missing from the American budget. It's the secret space program. And that's what I have concentrated on as I've slowly taken one piece after another apart in order to see that we're talking about full spectrum dominance on the planet in order to further the secret space program of entering into the solar system and creating empire there as well.
You know, what they're really doing right now is actually weaponizing the planet and converting it into a big antenna. Aren't we doing? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, the antenna is definitely that ring around the planet that, makes us look like Saturn. I mean, it makes me now really contemplate Saturn, and I guess they've found some of the same around Venus and around Mercury. So what is the history of all the planets here in this solar system? What are these? Are these communication rings? Are these resonant rings that by which that you can actually control the space between above and on the planet, possibly even below the surface?
Could we use it? Well, could we use it to send a message out in space? Because that's the thing, is that right now, and you know this, and of course we're going to get into this later on in the program, we received some fast radio bursts from a galaxy some 500 million miles, light years away. And while, no one's claiming that alien life would be doing this, in fact, the civilization, if there was anyone out there, would be dead, or maybe not, who knows. But we're getting that, I think it's like every 16 days, we're getting this signal, and it's coming in. They got the signal recorded. We're going to play some of it tonight. But see, that's the thing, is that, once again, I'm going to give the timeline here. You have the revelation that the Pentagon was interested in UFO studies for defense, wondering if they were a threat. You have, after that, the Space Force being established by Donald Trump. You have the appearance of Oumuamua in space around the same time, too. And everybody's like panicking, going, is this some sort of a space rock, or is this some sort of an interstellar spaceship? You had Avi Loeb and others say that it was a spaceship. And you had Stephen Hawking going, we need to find out more about this before he passed away. Then we had the briefing of the group's Armed Services Committee, the Deep State, and others, briefing each other on UFOs, briefing each other on what's going on out there. And my biggest question was, what is the difference between what happened in the time of Truman and Eisenhower? What is the difference between then and now? The now is that perhaps these, whatever they are, these UFOs, or whether or not they're being piloted by ETI, whether or not they are out there, and whether or not we're putting up our guard and no one's talking about it because they're afraid of how the people might react to it. Yeah,
I know that story well. I suppose, Clyde, you're concentrating on the UFO question of something outside the planet, and I'm concentrating on the human factor. And in fact, I would call it the humanity factor. In fact, I would call it the future of humanity factor, embedded in what I consider to be moves on the part of NASA,
right,
and AI.
But they're changing the planet. They're changing the planet to prepare for something, Elana. I mean, yeah, the human factor and what is going on out there is the same, in my opinion. Because
but it would be, for me, it would be transhumanism, Clyde.
Well,
there is.
What else could it be?
It could be an AI movement. Absolutely.
Well, exactly. I mean, how else are we going to adapt if something is out there waiting to create an incursion? What if? And this was also another thing that I didn't bring up. After they had this whole investigation into Oumuamua, they started talking about techno-signatures and biosignatures, and someone came up with the idea saying, well, what if the aliens aren't even biological? What if they're just artificial intelligence? And they've been around for billions of years. They've been watching us like rovers watch Mars or some other, jade rabbits over there on the moon. How is it that, we're thinking they're biological monsters, but in reality they're like semi-biological AIs. And that the only way we're going to be able to handle the arrival of whatever it might be, we have to eventually become just as much a machine, or at least having the planet reprogrammed and refitted in order to bring in these creatures, including reducing carbon emissions to the point of net zero, which would mean everybody's supposed to die. I mean, you can't do net zero. It'd be impossible because we are an industrialized nation. And unless we have the innovations to do this, what, are they going to just irradiate the entire planet and turn it into an antenna and make us all zombies? Is that what they're expecting?
Well, what can I say? I'm going into the tiny world now of the nanotechnology, which are basically little AI nanobots running around in our brain and our blood. So I am quite concerned about the future of nanotech. And what if the nanotech is connected to that ring around the planet, that communicating ring around the planet? And what if that is connected to AI systems somewhere still loose in the solar system?
Exactly. Well, yeah. I mean, think about it. I mean, we have to have a powerful antenna. This is what I'm thinking, because we have what? We have the dishes all over. We have Arecibo. We have all these other dishes. We have what? Like we were talking about that place in Arizona. We have the Mirage. We have Sira, or Sura, which is the Chinese version. We have all these different, ways of firing up a dome or some sort of a magnetic or electromagnetic shield on the planet. Well, shields up, planet Earth, because something's coming. Shields up, planet Earth. We have to re-terraform the planet, change its climate, change everything about it before the aliens arrive. And see, that's the thing. It's just everything seems to be heading towards what I call the celestial payoff, where we're going to find out the truth behind why they're firing up SDI, why we're going back on our treaties, Elana. Why in the hell are we going back on our treaties? We said we would not make space a fighting domain. Now it's a fighting domain, and we promised we wouldn't do this. Why are we going back on our promises?
Well, wait a minute. What treaty did we ever abide by?
Well,
I actually don't know one.
Okay, well, I always thought that we were supposed to be upstanding, not fiddling with SDI, START treaty, SALT treaty. I know. You're okay. Your cynicism wins. I'm just saying, we were supposed to be doing that, but we had neglected it. We're not going to, nuclear weapons are going to be in space too. You know this. I'm not telling you anything you don't already know.
No, you're not. But I'm more concerned about DEWs now. Okay. The nuclear thing is complex, but I still, as I told you a long time ago, I've been really influenced by Bruce Cathy and what he said about nuclear weapons. DEWs,
though, are going to be far easier to use using the space fence than anything else. And that's one of the things that you're right about, Elana, and that's another worry, too. Direct energy weapons easily deployed from this new space fence. We're living in the new aerospace age. Like I say, the celestial payoff is coming in 2020. Who knows what it'll be? Maybe revelations about aliens, but it's not going to be what you think. It's going to be a lot different than what you think, for sure. Elana Freeland with us tonight. 877-733-1011. That's 877-733-1011. Coming up, we're going to tell you how you can meet up with Elana. She's going to be doing some speaking engagements that you want to get tickets for. She's always an amazing speaker. Coming up on Ground Zero, don't go away. Elana Freeland with us tonight on Ground Zero, talking Space Fence and the timeline of why Space Fence is now in the news, firing it up again, or firing it. They kept it fired up anyway. They're just, they're just giving more power to it. And, of course, it's all adding to a lot of what has been said earlier that Elana's written about in her books and her educational tools and all the things that she does when she goes and she speaks and gives lectures, and of course she's going to be doing that again. And Elana, tell us where you're going to be. Tell us what you're up to. Tell us everything about your lecture tour.
I will be in California for 12 days. I will spend the first week in Los Angeles giving, I believe, 3 talks and 2 gatherings. I'm going to be squeezed mercilessly by people for information on the technology that I'm now concentrating on for the synthetic biology transhumanism book. Then on the 21st, I fly to San Francisco. That is where the conference is, Live Aware. Matt Landman is the keynote speaker, and I will be giving a talk on Saturday from 3 to 4 there right at the Hilton by the airport. Real handy for me.
Wow.
Then I can I'll be picked up on Sunday the 23rd by Santa Cruz people to go to Santa Cruz, give a talk that night, spend the night, bask in the glory of the 60s like Santa Cruz, which is always very fun to visit. And then I'll be taken back to the airport and come home.
You just make me want to get back to San Francisco when we spoke at that library near the UN, the original UN site.
Oh, yeah.
That's when we spoke.
Remember, we wandered around with the statues and took pictures?
Yes, we did. It was cold, though. Really cold that day. I remember.
Was it?
Yeah. I thought it was cold. But then again, I was with Brad Olson in San Francisco, and it was a beautiful, warm day. We went all over the place touring San Francisco, and then the fog rolled in towards the end of the day, and the temperatures just dropped substantially.
Yes.
And I'm like going, whoa, I got to get a coat. I didn't have a coat. I wasn't prepared. But, I love San Francisco. And good luck to you on your lecture tour. I'm hoping that a lot of people show up because you are a remarkable speaker. You do. I remember I was first hooked when you were talking about Weather Control 2025, the military. You were like doing a segment where you were just showing page by page the plan for using things like the space fence to control the weather, to use DEWs. And it's a fascinating world from Elana Freeland. Thank you so much for being on the program tonight. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Bye-bye, you guys.
Have a good night. Take care. Elana Freeland with us. And go see her. Go check it out. You'll be able to hear more. We'll also post on our Facebook page where you can find Elana in California, Los Angeles, and San Francisco, and her speaking engagements there, because it would really be worth your while if you're in San Francisco or Los Angeles to see her speak.